Everything's already connected, so we're good. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're checking in from. Rich and hydrated Demons and Diamonds editions. And I am late because there is chaos in circles of friendships because a friend, let's call no, an acquaintance committed suicide. And I'm having a whole fucking situation, whole moment. I'm mostly angry and annoyed, but I'm having a whole moment observing everyone's reaction, being very like it's in the spiritual internet corners. So everyone's like, "Oh, we respect her decision." No, the fuck no. I don't respect bad decisions at all. No, I need to step forward. But what's standing out is that it's in the corner of the internet that is looking for answer in spirituality, which fair, but is very doom, death cult. Humans are a plague to the planet. Humans are the cancer.
Okay.
Earth will take back her power and fucking take like it which is very left, politically left, right?
Yeah.
The right has a version of this too, which is all religious coded. Jesus will come back, a new apocalypse will happen, etc., etc. But I feel like these left corner, like the black pilled, that there is no hope, is the actual fucking cancer.
Right. It's very nihilistic. Yeah.
And I don't think people understand or realize when they say stuff to sound edgy, right?
Yeah.
Humans are a cancer, and Mother Earth will wipe us out. And first of all, cancer is a tumorous thing that is destructive by default.
Right. And it's a mutation. Right.
It's a mutation. Right. Humans live like nature does, create, love. Not to be conflated with lack of conflict, because nature has plenty of that too.
Right.
Nature is constantly at war. Right. Humans are not different from that. The reasons why humans war might be different, but the concept of war and violence is 24/7 present in nature everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Nature is constantly tearing itself down and building itself back up again. That is literally us all the time. Everything. My skin is literally dying. In a few weeks, I'll have a whole new, a few months, I'll have a whole new thing of skin. I'm shedding and I'm growing new hair. I'm constantly losing. I'm constantly, my hormones are flaring for one reason or another because I'm a woman. So anytime after 12 years old, I've been going through weird shit that I can't explain, and I've just chalked it up to hormones. But like my body is constantly trying to adjust. I moved to new places. The climate is different. Like we're constantly, I've torn down my life and rebuilt it. How many times? I don't even fucking know. You saying
you're supposed to
turn shit over. Yeah.
You're supposed to turn shit over. And this touches, like, because I see we have a lot of viewers, which I'm assuming they come from Twitter. And Twitter goes through these like different bandwagons that Facebook goes through. And the Twitter's bandwagon right now is that the economic crisis is the fault of the Jews and of all the foreigners. Because if those two weren't present, everyone would be living a lavish life. And I'm like, I need you to understand that economic cycles, the world will never be absolved or absent of any problems. It might be the Jews right now. It might be the foreigners. I'm like, I don't fucking know. Right. But next, if these things disappear, it's going to be the printing press. After that, it's going to be AI. Like, it will never be a smooth ride. And it's your job as a human to cultivate adaptivity and flexibility in your vision, in your behavior, in your world perspective.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like the survival of the fittest is really, and by fit, we don't mean strong. We mean adaptable, right? You mean that, it's like it goes back to the fable of the oak versus the willow, right? When you're going through the storm, the oak stands there strong and steadfast and loses a branch in the process because it wouldn't yield. The willow loses a few leaves but keeps all of its branches because it went with the wind and it bent with it, and now it's back and everything's cool. Like, so you can take from that what you want, but at the end of the day, people have to kind of align with, they have to adjust. If you're so consumed with and I saw this great video, I was going to share it with you, and I'll share it with you anyway, but like a friend of mine shared this video from Twitter, since we're on Twitter. And it was saying that in the end, there are a lot of people, mainly of the left, but I would say that the right is kind of infected with it as well. And that is that we're upset with the way, we're upset with how, with reality.
We're fighting with reality.
We're upset that reality exists, right? Yeah. Not with the reality, right? Like, for example, my reality is I live in Arizona. Okay, I can change that, right? Obviously, like that's not what I mean. That's not like that's very temporal. That's very that's very temporary, right? I could be anything. That's fine, but I'm alive is a more permanent reality. It's like the difference between, like, in Spanish they have the difference between ser and
your actual state versus your temporary being,
right? So estar versus ser, right? Like the two, there's a distinction. Like they make the distinction between what is temporary. So you can be sick in the moment.
You are a woman, right? You are temporarily sick
or tired or whatever, right?
Or exactly. Sad or happy,
right? Exactly. So there are things, but there are people who are mad with permanent things, like that are very pissed off, and they're angry at like the permanence and the actual, like, the permanent things and the reality of like how life is, right? Versus like people who are but the thing is I don't know. I'll share with you the video, but the whole point of it was that there's people just basically angry that life is the way it is, and that it's not their utopia, right? And it consumes them to the point where they start to make decisions out of that frustration rather than trying to navigate the reality, right? So there's different ways in which you're going to be you're presented with different choices based on how you perceive the world. If you perceive the world as a problem that needs to be overcome, and I'm trying to navigate this and I'm trying to work my way through a thing, I'm going to make different decisions than the person who says, I hate all this shit, and I'm going to see if I can find a shortcut. I'm going to see if I can find a way of avoiding it, because I shouldn't have to go through it, right?
And this and that, and that's the perspective. For like, I want to point out that any utopic, clean version of what the world ought to be, based on absolutely nothing except for the desire of wanting to absolve unpleasant sensations, right? Because that's what it is. I don't want to deal with the unpleasant sensations that overcoming hardship, discipline, hard work, showing up, disappointment, rejection, all of these elicit certain unpleasant sensations. I don't want to experience those. I want to diminish those as much as possible. So I will create a cocktail of existence where dopamine is very cheap and easy and accessible. And then I'll base my world perspective that should be the normal state of being.
And anyone who runs counter to that is part of the problem.
When in fact, why I cannot have,
right?
Why I'm not in this constant state of endless dopamine and bliss and joy.
That's right. That's right. And I don't know. I think they're fighting. They're shadow boxing ghosts because they're not real. Like, they're fighting this thing that's not real because they don't want to contend with what is. And so it's like they've created a whole other thing that they can now, this almost alter universe. But every time they're faced with the reality of what is, they're just frustrated, and they don't, and they've never really identified what the problem is. I got into it with somebody, the past couple of days, where somebody's like, we have to contend with real problems like poverty. And I'm like, poverty? I'm like,
oh my God.
why are you sitting there consumed with a global issue that like literally cannot be undone by like a policy? Okay, like you're talking about poverty. I said poverty. I said that's not addressable. That's not addressable. I said go ahead.
Just right. So I've been exploring Reddit in the good way. Like I've been really connecting to the Belgian Malinois, the horse people, because it's a very ton of information on that level.
Oh yeah, right? Yeah. Mm.
So and then sometimes you get like a glimpse of the rest of Reddit. And then you have these questions like, if you could get rid of one thing in the world, what would it be? And I think it had like 1,000 comments, and at least 700 of them were poverty. Sure. 300 of them were greed.
Okay.
And then you got into abstract, such as like, I don't know, politicians, Trump, or like, these kind of like minuscule. But yes, you
can't. That's not addressable. That's not a thing. I'm like that. You talking
about? But it sounds like a thing, right?
It sounds like a thing. It's a concept.
It sounds noble. It sounds noble,
right? But it's also wildly relative. Like poverty isn't a fixed thing.
Y'all American babies. You want to talk poverty, America?
Right.
The most poor person in America is still in the top 1% of the world.
I was like,
eat the rich means eating you.
Right. You're the rich bitch.
You're the rich bitch.
You're the rich bitch. It's you, fam.
You fam. With your obese, you're gonna be a little bacon.
That's right. Like it's so counterintuitive and it's circular. But like this, so this guy was like talking about how he's like, we have to get rid of poverty. I was like, no. I said, no. I need you to do more work than that. I need you to work harder. And if that's even work, I'm like, I need you to isolate a particular thing. Well, there are starving children. And I was like, nope, still too broad, not addressable. I need you to narrow it down. What is the actual problem? The problem isn't that the child has nothing to eat, right? Because the child's not very autonomous. There are adults, however, around that child that are. So what is the action or inaction that you're trying to isolate that ultimately leads to a starving child? So what is that? What is that? Tell me what that is. Is it supply chain? We can't get food to places that need to get food. Is it, that there are places that are overrun with locusts and they can't grow food? Like, what is the actual problem of getting the food to the kid? Is it neglectful parents? Is it because the kid just sitting there feeding a child? Okay. That's not it. That's not a real solution. There's a real problem behind that. And that is symptomatic of adults fucking up somewhere. Or maybe an freak of nature, right? Like a flood or a dust bowl or whatever. I don't know. But like, figure it out. Like sit down with it and like actually try and see like, what is it that, go reverse engineer the problem from the symptom and go backwards and figure out what the fuck. And then come back and tell me that's the problem. Because the problem isn't that the child is starving. That is actually, that's no more a problem than you having a fever. Your fever is not the problem. You've got a virus. You got to figure out what the fuck that is. You got to do something.
Well, and we have to address like the poverty in modern Western nations,
right.
As it pertains to food, right? Let's call it that. Not anything above that. As it pertains to shelter and food, looks significantly different than the poverty in Vietnam, right? In Vietnam, you have actually children who look scrawny as fuck. In America, the poverty people are fat fucks, right? Yeah. We have such an excess of calories available,
right.
Which are not in Vietnam, Korea, where like they just don't have those calories available.
Right.
We have an excess of calories in America.
Right.
In the UK, in Australia, in New Zealand, in the Netherlands, in Germany, right? Any modern Western nation.
Right.
More food is being thrown out,
right,
than actually consumed.
But the fact that we have surplus, right? That we have surplus is indicative that systematically we're still in relative good health.
No, very much.
Like, I'm not going to say it's perfect, but but there are places where there's no surplus. Like You're not
by
anything
lack of resources. It just doesn't
true
exist.
lack of resources. That's right. So like that's a different problem. So that's why you can't say poverty, because poverty in the United States is often a choice, whereas poverty in a place like Sudan is not. Like,
oh my God, I love. For all, I love you, obviously, and I have 5 minutes scrolling time a day. And yesterday, one of the big accounts, PNW Gorilla, on the Twitter said something about poverty. I don't fucking know. And I said, look, if you are healthy body, you have zero reasons to be broke.
In the United States, especially. Yeah.
In America, zero. And then again, all the but the foreigners, but the Jews and everything. I'm like, I don't understand it. Like, this is the new thing is the Jews.
Right.
And I'm like, it's so funny. I used to work for Jewish mafia in Amsterdam, by the way. Super fun. Other stories. I don't think those are the Jews that they're talking about, by the way. They're probably like the Jews that are like the people who are now doing but the Jews are like the black people who are doing like but the white people, right? It's just and I'm not saying that it's not a component. I'm saying that it's an irrelevant component. Because whatever problem there is, it doesn't absolve you from requiring to get fucking better.
That's right.
To get fucking stronger. Yeah. It's not a stagnant state to be successful. No. But there's this idea, which now on the left and the right, that if you do this thing one time, you should be rewarded. Well, motherfuckers, I went to the gym yesterday and I still ain't got no abs.
Yeah. Still waiting on my my lines and definition. I went the one time. So like, yeah, it's consistently, like it's consistency, right? It's the consistency of it all that if you don't do that.
Right. And the success is a byproduct, a symptom of certain other characteristics and behaviors and acts.
And outlooks, like a lot of it has to do with outlook. So going back to the acquaintance, do we know what ultimately did that person end? Did they leave a note or say, this is why, or no, just gonzo? Yeah.
Just an overall pessimist a whole life of pessimistic outlook or doom thinking outlook.
Yeah.
Which one would say like, hey, if you go through certain things, it's understandable. But what happened to you at a younger age, it's up to you to evolve and alchemize.
That's right.
However fucking hard.
That's right. Like it.
And it's people underestimate how flexible your perspective really is.
Yeah.
It feels in the moment when you feel, and I've definitely, when I've been in my anger phases, I loved doing the like, fuck this, fuck the world. Cause I love rebelling against something. And I remember being surrounded by people who are all like, fuck the world. And then I'm like, well, y'all are way too fucking dark for me. Cause I'm still grinding up in this bitch. Like I'm
still showing up. I'm still showing about it right now.
Right. And I wonder, someone made a reel, like there's a Slavic chick from Belarus who lives in America right now. She's like, there's a huge difference between Slavic people complaining. Slavic people will complain. Slavic people will bitch like no other, but they'll do the thing.
They'll still work. They still work.
Westerners only complain.
Correct.
And I'm like, I wonder if that's the difference, because then I'll fucking rage against the world, but I'm gonna do the shit regardless, because I could do both.
Right. That is very Slavic. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, well, it's kind of like, the way in which like Asians are often like prompted by shame. Right. You sit there and you're like, well, you can't like this lady was talking about how like there's no homeless in Beijing because they won't let you, because that family will not let you bring shame on the family by living on the street. So they will come by in a van, scoop your ass up, and bring you home and lock you in
anything
but that. You don't get to drag my name by living on the streets. That's not a thing. So get your ass in my house. I hate you. I resent you.
I will beat you into discipline.
Right. You've brought shame on this fucking house.
You
go get a fucking job. Right. Like, and they will unrelentingly do this to you until you snap out of it.
Figure out your life.
That's right.
Figure out your fucking life.
And I'm just saying that, like, and these are cultural differences, mind you, but like, in the same way. So it's like, yeah, in the same vein.
I'm with the Asians on this one too.
I'm not.
My fucking name means something. Stop dragging it.
quit dragging it. Like, don't be doing that shit. Right. And I don't, you know, that's some stuff that like culturally, like, you know, people were, you know, there's a lot of people that like to talk about equality, right? And they're saying, you know, every choice is valid. And I'm like, no, every choice exists. You have every number of choices, but not all of them are equal. There are superior choices and there are, in fact, inferior choices.
Very much so.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Much so.
Because they were talking, you know, because they did it in the context of abortion. And I said, no. I said, you can choose to do also. I said, I can choose to, you know, to rob a bank. That's a choice. So it's like murdering the child down the street. So's, you know, dog napping the next door neighbor's dog. And like, I can do, there's all sorts of choices. Like, but that doesn't make, but there are superior choices. In the same way, there are superior cultural attributes that we can look at in the world and say, that's actually superior to what I have, or that is in fact inferior to what I have. And I have no problem saying that the shaming in Asia is top shelf. Top shelf. They do amazing work. I mean, they have that mix of that cocktail of shame, guilt, passive aggression that's just like that others have tried to emulate and never actually did so successfully. Like,
so, and where the West is trying to absolutely not experience those sensations and is doing anything and everything to remove those sensations or to, you know, not getting in contact with them by virtue of, look at how autonomous I am, look how individually independent I am, and I'm trying to, you know, disconnect from these social cultural concepts. Now you have a generation filled with fucking losers. So if the question is shame and guilt, but excellent social, like a cultural net,
right,
that upholds certain standards versus, you know, not experience those, you have your autonomy, but now you have a fucking failing society.
I feel like there has to be, and I don't mind individualism, but there has to be
the individualism is the shit.
There has to be some level of like self-awareness in terms of like how your actions ultimately impact the larger society around you. Like, I feel like that's absent. That's absent.
So how, and by the way, I have to catch myself because I said a failing society, and mind you, I actually think that America isn't even in the uprising of its growth. I said this before on our last podcast. If America is an orchestra of 200 instruments, the first 4 ain't even playing yet. Like, the guy with the stick isn't even moving yet. Like, so where everyone's like, oh, Rome has fallen because it was a 300-year cycle or whatever, therefore America is long doomed. No. There's nothing ever been a superpower like America. I'm not talking about the military. I'm just talking about what America is as its foundation, as its idea. Nothing ever existed like America. We aren't even in the beginning steps. And there is a significant larger gap between people who are seeking responsibility, people who are seeking the confrontation and conflict of unpleasantries, whether that's rejection, disappointment, fitness, whatever that looks like, right? And those that are not.
Right. And there's a cultural chasm between them. So, like, I think, you know, I would sooner, I think, you know, the way in which you depicted in the earlier about the left and the right, and the left being far more, you know, doom and gloom and black pilled, and then the right being far more like white pilled about, you know, hope and whatever brings you hope, no matter how, you know, abstract it is. I'd rather be around a hopeful person at the end of the day. Like, that person will
delusion and hope,
right? Then
and reality and doom.
That's right. That's right. It's like, what I don't like is, and this is something that I kind of, you know, that as I learn more about Europeans, I don't like the sense of resignation that Europeans have. They seem very resigned, you know, like, this is the way it is. This is it, you know, and I'm okay with it. It's sufficient. And like, sufficiency is like a life goal. And then they stop. And I'm just like, because that's all depressing. It's actually depressing.
No. So, and this is that gene, right? That America is founded on.
Right. That we're not satisfied. Right.
It's not that sufficiency is the baseline.
Right. Right. Sufficiency is the baseline. That's the starting point. Yeah.
That's the starting.
Right. So, I mean, the fact that that's where we say that's where the race begins, right? And the race doesn't start from poverty in the negative. The race starts at sufficiency, and the belief that what we have here is sufficient to get us started, right? To get started on something, not sufficient to stop.
If you so, you get to start.
That's right. That's right. And you can, and I don't like that. I don't like the resignation, and that mentality is kind of coming over to the United States. And I feel like the left is very much embraced that whole.
The left is embracing that because the left is susceptible for incorrect data or incomplete Twitter points about nations, because they will in one hand say, oh, but Finland's healthcare is fucking great. Yeah, Finland's suicide is fucking great too.
Yeah, right? The Scandinavians are no joke with the depression. Like they're fucked up.
I keep making the Scandos. They have this joke that people laugh twice in their life.
Right.
Once when maybe the weather is nice, and the second time when they die because the suffering is over.
Yeah, I know. They're dark people, dude. Like they're dark
and probably partially because it's very dark certain times of the year, right? Like
it's all Alaska. It's just literally a bunch of Alaska. Yeah, I know.
And then they'll go like, oh, look at these, free healthcare, but then they ignore the part where you pay 57.9%.
Right.
But at least it's free.
It's free to wait. It's free to wait. It's not like you're going to get your appointment immediately. Dude, I have a friend of mine who was in Denmark. He should have to wait 6 months to get his back examined.
It's the same in the whole West Europe. East Europe is actually still really great, but that's a completely different system. Yeah.
But I think that I think there is as I watch Japan kind of reclaim itself a bit, and I'm just,
love it.
I'm just quietly sitting here
love it.
That's right. You do that.
And by the way, America and Japan are finding a newfound love. It's happening online.
I know.
And it's so good. It's so good to see. And I keep thinking that former superpowers are actually more alike. Japan, Russia, they're all like the Florida man in one version or another.
Right. We've got a strain of you've got that strain of and I know that, and it's gotten a bad rap. And I've come around on the issue quite a bit myself, is the idea of having some sort of sense of national pride. I see no problem with it. People used to get really upset because they're like, oh, it's team sports and it's just, and it's like, no, it's more than team sports.
Yeah.
It's that because, so I have this theory. I have a theory that I've been formulating in my brain for a minute, trying to just kind of get it out. So I'll share it with you because I haven't told anybody anything. But I feel like culture is like this 4-part thing. Okay. So if you have culture, in the nucleus of the culture is traditions and values. That's in the center. That's not something that is exposed to the rest of society, like the rest of the world. It's just known by the people who are members of that culture. It's just understood. Okay.
And once you finish, I want to touch on that. Go.
Yeah.
So good.
Externally, the outer membrane of culture is basically the proxy by which that inner nucleus interacts with the external. So expression, including art, literature, language, dance, festivals, that type of stuff. Your clothes.
The way of celebration.
Yeah, all of that. That's expression. And the other side is economics, commerce, right? And how you can trade with somebody. These are the ways in which that nucleus, which is very discriminatory, very raw, and very exclusive, right?
Yep.
Deals with the rest of the world that isn't one of them.
Yeah.
So but it's protected by language and economy. It is kind of, it lives within this, and that language and economy is what everybody sees when they go visit a country and thinks they love it. Okay. Like when people go to Japan and they're like, I love Japan. I'm like, of course you do. Because you heard them talk to you and you saw how they present and you liked, and you like their business and you like their products and you like all that stuff. And you like the aesthetic. You like how safe it is. You like all the external things that you got to see. You have no idea what's inside.
It should be an entry point for an outsider. That's the entry point.
Correct. But that's your exposure. That's what they let you see that.
Yes.
There is an inner nucleus of Japan that is incredibly discriminatory and exclusive that belongs to them, that to the point where it was conditioned inside you to just know. My mom came to the United States when she was early 20s. Okay. So she's been in the United States longer than she's been in Japan at this point. Because she's like almost 80, like 78. Okay. So like she's been in the United States for over 50 years.
Still Japan though, right?
If you just watched how she carried herself, everyone in Japan would look at her and say she's Japanese. Not one person would say she's not Japanese because she's never gotten rid of the way she carries herself. She carries herself like a Japanese person that is 100% bred into her, imbued into her from being born and raised there by a Japanese mother. There is no way around that. She couldn't get rid of it. So she speaks impeccable English. She gets around just fine. She held down a job. She lives her life. But the way she carries herself 100% does not even look American. Her mannerisms, her tone, not American. She get it. She can't. And her English is impeccable. She has no accent. Like she's literally, but she has this thing in her that everything she does is in the most Japanese way. But she's doing it in America and she's doing it with English. And so, and there's no way around that. And it's like, and she knows it, like there's a lot of idioms and a lot of, sayings and adages. She just doesn't know them and it doesn't make sense to her. Sarcasm has never been a thing. She cannot pick up on all the sarcasm. In 50 years, over 50 years she's been in the United States. She cannot. And it's like, and she's done everything right. It's not that, but she can't undo what's already been done inside her, and so she carries the nucleus of Japan in her, and she lives in the membrane. She lives within the language. She lives within the economy, but she doesn't live inside the United States. She is in the United States, but not of the United States, if that makes sense. Okay.
Absolutely.
And if I go to Japan, the same thing would be said of me. I carry myself like an American. I walk like one. I express myself like one. My hand gestures are very American. My facial expressions are very American. And I don't know that till I'm in another country and everybody starts to, immediately take notice. But also I don't look Asian, but like I go out there, if I go to Japan, I can be in Japan. They are welcoming, but I can be welcome, but I don't belong. And there is a difference. And that's important to preserve, believe it or not, right? Because that is true, like true human, like social identity. Like, so Japan has it and they have the thing. And I am perfectly content with the fact that I can't have that. I'm okay with that. I can live there. I can get citizenship. I can get residency. I speak enough Japanese to get by. They wouldn't turn me down. They'd let me in as a resident. I could get citizenship eventually, I'm sure. I'm never going to be Japanese in the sense that my mom is Japanese. I'm just not. And it's okay because that's important because I'm very American. And that means that American exists. That what that does is it defines it and it says to me, that's because you're American, Kelly. And that's your tribe. And you're going to, and the thing is you're going to find another American while you're abroad and you guys are going to become best friends. Just like when you go to another state and you find another Californian, you guys are going to be best friends. And then when and then if I go, and if I'm in, no matter where I am, I'm going to find somebody who's definitely going to be like closer to me in proximity culturally. And that person is just going to we're going to identify with each other. We just are. And that's important to preserve. And I feel like people being ashamed of it and people hating the fact that it is so exclusive and saying, look, that's not to say that others can't be here. It's just that there is this thing that America has that is just uniquely its own. And we shouldn't, I feel like people have tried so hard to obscure it that they're in denial that American culture exists. And yet no foreigner comes here and says, oh yeah, it's just like everywhere else. Nobody comes, no European that got here during the World Cup was saying, just like home. Not even close.
No AC everywhere.
No, yeah, like fuck no. They were just like, no, wait a minute. Free refills, ice in my water, and fucking AC all day long. All day long. I'm in. I'm fucking in. Walmart? Fucking Costco? Are you kidding me right now with this? Like they were going to Target and like losing their shit. Like, no, we absolutely have a way of life.
People, I need y'all to understand that I own the domain name baragoeswalmart.com. And when I just started coming to America, I was so obsessed with Walmart that I made my friends stop at every fucking Walmart along the road trip. And I managed to do 93 Walmarts until my friends were like, we cannot do this with you anymore. So I have like the blog is offline now, but I should pull it on. Like Walmart is the epitome of the endless possibility that is America. 100%.
Fucking Hobby Lobby at Christmas time? Come on. Come on. Nobody does that. No one does that. We do that. And I'm just like, we take it so fucking far. And I'm like, that's amazing. And we love it. And I love it. And it's like, and that's like, you know, there is an American culture. We do have a heritage. We do have a history. We do have
but that I'm of belief that whole like America doesn't have culture, that has externally be injected. That's whether the Soviets did that, the communists, or whether the Chinese ones. That's not, because once again, America is founded on an idea. America's the only one who has a constitution like it has, that's actually pro people, and people don't know. And I said this before, when I first heard the America's constitution, this constitution, I'm like, y'all annoying. I had no idea what the constitution was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's Americans' job, and I don't think most Americans even know what a constitution like actually is. They hear the words First Amendment, Second Amendment, Bill of Rights, right? But they don't know what the Constitution is. And I keep explaining to people, and I'm glad they're listening to me, because I've traveled. I'm not from here. America is not just for travelers. America was a rough nation with just violent nature, here and there having some group of people, and then Europeans who were too fed up with living in Europe for whatever reason, whether they were exiled, whether they were just like, fuck these governments, we're going to the complete unknown. It's like waking up. It's like, it's like taking a boat, surviving that boat ride, being dropped off in a pitch black room, and you being confident enough to walk even though you can't see shit.
And you don't know what's next, right?
That's crazy.
That's fucking nonsense. No, I mean, they were coming on boats, not ships like cruise liners.
No.
They were dying on the way here.
Yeah. If the ship would kill you,
right,
then your neighbor fucking vomiting on you would, or the cold, harsh winter coming through the ship would, or you getting a simple cold, would an pneumonia or some kind of pneumonia would kill you. Like, you survived all that. Then you landed somewhere on the East Coast and went like, I'm going over yonder.
I guess I'll set up a camp here now. I guess that's the first thing we're going to do is fucking take this fucking ship apart.
We'll call that Bear Creek, because there's a grizzly bear constantly attacking one of the kids.
Yeah. That way people will know.
Because John got attacked last week and lost his leg.
Right.
And Linda got 2. So that's Bear Creek. We try to avoid it. We're on the other side of it.
Yeah. Right. We're north of the Bear Creek. We're south of the Bear Creek. Like, it's insane what they did. And it's like it's funny because like somebody was saying, and this is, it's grueling, but at the same time, I think it comes from, like, let me back up a bit. So this guy was saying that, Why is it that when the Jews got, when the Jews were being killed, it was called a genocide, but when the Native Americans were killed, it was called the Holocaust, but when the Native Americans were killed, it was just settling, and I'm just like,
I've answered that question several times myself, by the way.
right.
Genocide implies the eradication and the desire of eradication of one group. The natives were not one group.
Right.
They didn't need to die. They didn't need to die. They could have just fucking joined. Right. And now you get very uncomfortable shit. As someone from Czech Republic who's been invaded from the east and from the fucking west, this is my biggest fucking battle with my nationality, is that we were fucking weak. We were too fucking weak. And that's a fucking problem. Yeah. You know what that resulted in? In that my nation, where I originate from, is 10 times smaller than it was 200 years ago.
Right.
Because we were too fucking weak.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing is, before the West even got here, they were doing this to each other. So whatever,
But this happens everywhere, and it's not this one Western, like European group against all these natives. No. The natives going at the natives. The Europeans going at the fucking Europeans. The Christians going at the fucking Europeans. The grizzly bears going at the natives and the fucking Europeans and the Christians.
It's just it's a mosh pit of like sorting shit out, and it's like, and I said, but there's a complete difference. I said, you understand, and this is not to justify it, right? This is not to justify anything, but I'm going to explain that the circumstances were wildly different. You cannot compare them. I said, what happened with the Jews? The Jews were not a nation of Jews, and then they were being displaced by the incoming Germans. They were Jews in Germany, and Germany was like, we don't want the Jews here. And they were being eradicated from Germany and they were considered non-Germans, okay? Mm-hmm. And they did the same thing. They were purging Poland of Jews because they were preserving it for the Poles, and they were going into Hungary, purging the Jews to keep it Hungarian. Like, it was a cleansing. It's terrible, but like
no. And to clarify, Hitler was, and there's this very binary idea that it was like the Nazis versus the Jews. No. The Slavs were dirty fucking too.
Right.
The prostitutes and the criminals, even of German descent, were dirty too.
Right.
This was a full-on cleansing.
Right. It was a cleansing. So it's like, that's its own thing. The agenda was different. I said, the United States was conquered to be the United States. They are not Native Americans. They're indigenous people of the land. America didn't exist first. It was America later.
Well, we get into semantics, which I find very important. Is when people say America was built by immigrants, I'm like, no, it was not. No. Immigrants implies that there was a nation to immigrate to. Correct. It was built by settlers, conquerors, pioneers. They were not immigrants, because immigrants implies that there's a border that says this is a place, this is the name of said place, you come into that place. That's not what America didn't
also exist. Established place, right? It has to be an established place, right? And then you came, right?
It has to be an established place,
right? It wasn't, is the thing.
No,
so it was just
literally, it was nothing,
right? So somebody comes in, and the thing is those settlers came in, they had a vision, they built it out and did the thing. Were there slaves, indentured servants, etc., who did a lot of the labor? Yes. There were also regular settlers doing labor. Like, it wasn't just people sitting in high lofty chairs pointing to slaves to do everything as if it was like the pyramids. No, they also rolled up their sleeves and built their own homes.
And by the way, the majority of the people who built America did not have slaves.
No.
They were just, they were trying to survive the Oregon Trail by not dying of dysentery or fucking lettuce in this case, right?
There were
no slaves.
No, the majority of them did not have slaves. They couldn't afford it. Like, they couldn't afford
They
it.
had nothing. There was nothing here.
It was just a covered wagon. Like, I'm serious. Like, that shit was real. Like, that happened. You know, and it's just like that. The fact that like, and the fact that that is what really built the country was the fact that somebody took it upon themselves to so like, okay, they come on the boat, they do the thing, 1620 Mayflower, blah blah blah. Okay, but then like in the 1700s, they're going west where they don't know how far that shit goes. They have no fucking clue. They're just like, I got a letter from somebody 5 months after they left. They didn't die. So let's go out that way because there's land and that's it. And we'll just put a stake in the ground and we'll just say it's ours. And they did. And then they farmed it. They built a house on it. They did this, not slaves, them. Like, families were building houses for themselves. Like the husbands were building the houses. The women
with their kids. The kids are not chilling in a cupboard. They're slaving away.
They're working. The kids are working. The kids were working so much that by the time they were 13 years old, they could have been self-sufficient.
Like, and they were considered adults.
Right. They knew how to negotiate at the market. They could grow their own food. They knew how to take care of a farm. They knew how to take care of children because they took care of their younger siblings. Like, they know all the shit. They can sew. They can do everything. Like, they have every trade that their parents had. They have it. So now they can go do the thing at 13. So like this, you know, it's like a 13-year-old today. Bless.
So I love, by the way, how you describe the culture aspect. I need to pee so badly, by the way. Can I just quickly go? Yeah. 1 minute, you keep talking. I'll be right back.
Okay. I don't know if you can even hear me from where you are, but you'll hear it when you come back and re-listen to the episode. But I will say that the United States was founded on a puritanical ethic. That's real. That happened. The Puritans were here. They settled here. They did their thing here. They were separatists, and they built an ethic that is separate from the hierarchical church that was in Europe. That's the individualism that we have. Mm-hmm. Then you have the ethic that came from that is the work ethic. That was like, you know, and that was basically you can't have idle hands. You must have a calling. You must have a purpose. God has called you to do a thing, and you're going to do that the best way you can.
Yes.
And then and the other thing is that there is there is this individualism that is basically individual relationship to God as opposed to the hierarchy of the church, which is ultimately where the individualism comes from. But there is a whole book written by Max Weber talking about the correlation between the Protestant ethic and the spirit of capitalism. And that is the underpinning of the United States, regardless of your religious beliefs at this point. Mm-hmm. That is the underpinning. You don't have to be a Puritan, but you are culturally Christian in that sense.
100%.
Culturally puritanical, culturally, not so much like an Amish person, but you carry these things. Like, that's part of our epigenetic makeup, is that in the United States, you have this thing that says, you know, I have purpose. I need to figure out what that is. That, you know, it can be a secular version of this, right? But it is nonetheless, I have a calling. I have a purpose. I need to go figure out what that is. Once I figure it out, I'm going to be the best motherfucker at that I can be. I must be. I have to be. And I'm going to improve it. And somebody else is doing this shit, but I'm going to do it better. That's the benchmark. I got to do better than that guy. I'm going to get a teacher, and then I'm going to beat my teacher. I'm going to replace it, and I'm going to be better.
And the teacher is supposed to want that for their students, by
100%. 100%. Right. And there's a sense of like this almost replacement theory of like, we need to replace the old. We need to replace it with something better, replace it with better. And this constant climb, right, that we're in the middle of. So it's like, that's why you have adages that say, you know, the farmer was the farmer so that his, you know, the coal miner was the coal miner so his son could be a farmer. The farmer was a farmer so his son could be a poet. Like, you're basically you're improving the lot intergenerationally, and that is important. But you're always in the grind, right?
Yep.
You're always grinding, because the moment you go idle is the moment that, the devil will ultimately have his way, right? That you have nothing else to do, so he'll find something for you to do, type of mentality. So there's the idea of frugality, saving, anticipation and planning. All of this is hardwired into that Protestant ethic, and ultimately created a fertile economic and cultural ground for capitalism to just flourish and be. Like, you can try to institute capitalism elsewhere, like Denmark insists they're not socialists. They have market capitalism, and I'm like, in your businesses, yes, in your businesses, you are far less regulated. In Sweden, you're far less regulated in many senses, and you can innovate, but your tax structure is still wildly debilitating. The number that you can't have choice if you're taxing people at 66%. Like, like, there's very little choice for you if 2/3 of your income is going to the state.
Exactly.
Right. So, like, you do and you don't. Like, you can innovate products. That's great. But I can't
on a micro, but not on a macro.
But I don't have choice if I don't get my money back, right? If I can't have my money to make all the choices that I could ostensibly afford, then I'm not really I'm making choices that are very limited by what the government leaves over for me, right? So I don't know.
But, and I love the culture aspect, how you brought it up, because my husband and I were discussing it this week, because we watched The Breakfast Club.
Yes.
Right, classic American. Yes. And I know of it. I've watched it in the past because classic American, and I watched it again with him, and I can tell that because he grew up in Breakfast Club time, right? That, and he described, like, he's like, I can smell the tables. I can feel the pencil, the rulers, the backpacks, like.
Oh, you can smell the library.
I just see them, and that's the difference in culture.
Right.
I can never go to that core because I haven't been there, haven't experienced, zero associations with it. I can appreciate the aesthetic of it and the storyline, but I'll never understand the core.
Right.
That's culture.
Yeah.
Culture is that center.
Right. It is. It's traditions and values. It's the conditioning. It's the particular conditioning that you were brought up with. It's, and it's not about whether you can look at a culture and say, I don't like these practices. And there's certain practices that you could probably, if you don't like them enough, you could probably turn them off. But that's much different than, like, the conditioning. The conditioning is like all of it, the conditioning comes from, because if you figure that everything that goes outward, right, is for the foreigner, like the commerce and the language and the stuff, that's foreign space out there that foreigners can easily engage, and it's no problem. But if you're talking about, like, traditions and values, that's inward. Yeah, that's inward. That means you're putting it into your kids. You're putting it into everything. You put it into everything you create.
And also, all cultures are not fucking equal. Let me be very fucking clear on where we stand on that.
100%, which is why you can sit here and cherry pick and say, I love the shaming of Asia. But I also like the fact that, Eastern Europeans will sit there and bitch all the way through it, but get it done. They vent, but they get it done, and it's like, okay, fine. You got it off your chest and now you're done and it's over. And it's like, but, there's certain things, like, I like the warmth of Latin American countries. I love the intergenerational, households. I love that kind of familial, that and the fact that, like, the idea of a retirement home for your elderly is completely offensive. Yeah, it's like, you're just gonna drop Abuela off at a building and have her live by herself? What?
Alone in a room?
Alone in a room? Like, why isn't she coming home with you, though? Like, why is Abuela not coming home with you? Like, Abuela should have a room. She doesn't have a room? Like, yeah, they've got questions. Like, that's weird. And, like, but we do it here in the United States. We put them in homes, and I think a lot of Western Europe does. A lot of Western Europe puts their elderly away. And it's just like, I don't know if that's the most superior thing I've ever seen, like, so there are practices that I would say, I would want to adopt of other countries, but there are practices that I don't. And this, but what I don't like is the idea that it's an all or nothing thing. We're just going to dump everything together, on the same plate, and then we got to eat it. And it's like, no, I'm okay with using Hungarian paprika, with my American grown vegetables, but that doesn't mean I got to dump a bunch of other shit in there with it to celebrate.
I like Indian curry. I don't like shitting in the streets.
Right. Yeah. So like that, and it's like, so this idea.
Call me racist.
Yeah.
I've been in India. I love India, but no.
But no. Right. No. That's right. I mean, and it's okay. Like,
and by the way, France, a lot of rural French public toilets are also just holes in the grounds.
Right.
Also no.
I love plumbing. I love plumbing. That's right. I love my AC and I love my plumbing, and that's and so I'm going to take the very best for myself and leave the rest behind. And I feel like that should be the evolution, especially for the United States, because the United States is in a unique position to be able to say, my culture actually says to find the best and then go do it and pursue it. My culture actually dictates that I do that.
Yeah.
So in theory, I could actually take the very best attributes of every other culture, bring that in and say, this is us now. We're doing this, and people are going to see me. They're going to want to be me, and then they're going to want to beat me, and I'm going to show them why. And then that whole exchange of ideas is what ultimately evolves the United States out of the shit that it's in. But you can't have these doomsayers, sitting at the helm. You can't have like the people who are just like, life is not as I want it to be, so I must end it. Or, humans are a plague on the, to the earth and all of that. No, we're not. The earth was a gift for us. It was for us.
It's such a chronic online city view. Like,
yeah, it is.
The moment you spend one day outside in nature, you learn real fucking quick.
Yeah, go hiking. Go to a national park and go camping in the wilderness and find out exactly like what's what, and see who really sucks. You'll be surprised that you aren't the worst. You really aren't. It's very life affirming. You go out in the wilderness, you'll soon find out that, I'm really not that bad. And actually, I've decided that it's this, it's the banana slug that is in fact the worst. It's disgusting, or like whatever. But the people who are so absorbed with how horrible life is, and how horrible humanity is, they're failures. They're failures in every way. They're failures in seeing, the good of life. They're failures in making good of life. They're failures at, doing something with themselves.
And isn't it funny? Because their way of coping is to say that the world is bad. Therefore, that's the reason why they can't succeed. I'm like, wow, that's a skill issue, baby.
Yeah. The idea that like the world unto itself is a disadvantage to you is no, it's actually an opportunity.
Can you let's even entertain it as a logical. Where would the world be as a society, as a humanity, if that was the case? We'd be losing. We'd never even get here.
No, your shit wouldn't be here, because if your great grandparents took that same fucking view, your shit wouldn't be here. Like, you're here because your great grandparents and your ancestors said, wow, it's better than my parents. At least I got it better than them. At least, and which means we've done far more with far less. And now you're sitting here complaining about your lot in life to the point where you see no point. And it's like, that's a first world thing. That's an actual first world problem, that you see no point because you feel like you've already peaked, or like it's better. Like,
I used to be a motorcycle stunt rider, right? So I was second generation. So the first generation, we call them the OGs. They had to figure out everything on their own, right? Like, how does it work to do a wheelie on your motorcycle? Then my stunt generation figured out that you can make a second clutch and a rear brake at your steering wheel, which normally is like your foot, because when your feet are not in their original position, right?
Mhm.
Then the generation after that created different sprockets that you can change for going on the road versus on stunt riding. So, and you saw that the speed of which the newer generation learned,
Mhm.
like we're now in like the 6th or 7th generation of stunt riders. They are doing shit on the motorcycle that we couldn't even dream up, because
Right.
their time wasn't occupied with the technicalities of the motorcycle.
That's
We
right.
figured all of that for them out, and the OGs, they found it the baseline, right?
That's
My
right.
generation really took it home, and that generation refined it, and now it's only a skill thing, because all the technological stuff is set,
Yeah.
and they do shit that we couldn't even. We have. It's like, wow. It's like looking into the future,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's how it's supposed to be, and that's how it is.
Right. And it can continue to be that way if you adopt that imperative that says I now have to go and do better than my predecessor. That is my charge. My charge is to do better than whatever was before me in whatever it is I'm doing, and to improve this, so that the next generation, so that I can look back and say, wow, we've come a long way. And the next generation can look back and say, I've taken it further. If you're not standing on the shoulders of giants, your perspective is very bleak, because you're only seeing what's immediately in front of you, and you see no horizon beyond that. And, and it's like, you're right. It is probably very much a city, a very city mentality,
I think, well, and after that we might have to end, but like there was this, I don't want to say split, but this evolution of like the survival of the fittest by virtue of cities and ease of life has evolved from physical strength, which we still have, to economic strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as an economic strong person, you can learn physical strength. Other way around, a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
So the survival of the fittest changed and evolved from just physically being able to carry as much weight to now financially being able to provide and create abundance and access.
Right.
And that power, right? Because previously, power was determined by who can fucking punch the hardest or shoot the most accurate. Now it's, that still applies also, and we have a separate layer, which is like who has the most financial power.
Yeah.
And financial weight class.
Right.
Yeah, we solved it.
Yeah, we did. We did.
Everyone, rich and hydrated, demons and diamonds and demons next week, Tuesday, 3:30 PST.